Hi, Jennifer. So glad that you got to come back in again this week. And I just wanted to quickly review with you some of the things we worked on last week, because it's going to continue with some other techniques that we're going to work through today. So last week we talked about the culturally influenced 5-part CBT formulation. So we talked about an immediate triggering situation, which was when you were writing your autobiography. You were triggered by your ex-husband just talking about your daughter being mature enough at 15 to date, because he thought that you were, the emotions that brought up, just about you feeling that you were not emotionally mature, you were intellectually mature, and that gave you some fear and anger emotions. We also talked about some of the culturally influenced behaviors with, you were wanting attention from your parents, weren't getting it. We had the older sister that was super, golden child, and the baby sister that was kind of the rebel, and you were not getting attention. So you got this attention from the ex-husband. So therefore you didn't see the red flags with the obsessive attention. And then some bodily sensations you talked about were just like that emotion that makes you feel of disgust, that makes you just feel physically ill, especially in the stomach. And so one other cultural influence we talked about was with the Catholic religion, and that need for the Catholic wedding when you didn't even want to get married, but was really promoted by your parents. So we're going to talk today about, oddly enough, how you are such an amazing student. And that actually is going to be part of where we're going to go with today. Part of you being an amazing student is that you're really good at doing your therapy notebook. And that is something that's extremely valuable for these CBT applications, because you're really doing the work, and we can really look over what you've written and your assignments. Today we're going to kind of talk about schemas, which are basically some core beliefs. This has come up in your journaling, especially in your autobiography. So we want to kind of explore those and what they mean. So schemas are like core beliefs. And they're ones that we want to challenge. So I noticed, like we've talked about before, you had some automatic thoughts. And those are ones that we want to challenge. So let's kind of go back through like what we worked on with the CBT 5-part formulation. The automatic thought that you challenged had to do with marrying your ex-husband. You had met him at 15, you got married at 18. He was so much older than you. You talked about being intellectually smart, because you always have. You've been this amazing student, but you weren't emotionally ready for that decision. So we're gonna address this, that you didn't have the emotional maturity, and the signs that you were seeing at the time were obviously red flags, but it wasn't obvious to you because it felt like attention that you weren't receiving from the parents, and you needed that from your parents. So let's do one activity where let's take that thought of that you should have known better at that age, and you should not have married your ex-husband, and just kind of because it brings up a little bit of shame and guilt, and really kind of attacks that perfectionism that you have, right? So if you were be the prosecutor and the defense attorney, and I want you to first be the prosecutor and explain why you should have known better than to do that. Okay, so that's Okay, that's good. Basically, you're saying that the prosecutor is saying, you're such a smart girl. You should have known that you're better than that man. The prosecutor is saying, look at these red flags. You even knew before you married him that like this was getting obsessive and controlling, and you didn't want to marry him, and you did anyway. Okay. All right, so now it's going to be time for the counter. Defense attorney is going to defend you and present that to the judge. Okay, these are all excellent points from the defense attorney. So you're saying that you were really young. This man was a predator. He preyed on you as a 15-year-old. He knew what he was doing. And like you said, it was a really good point that narcissists are very charming. So of course, as a 15-year-old girl, she's going to want that attention where she's not getting it at home, and it feels like it's meeting a need which you emotionally needed at that time, and you weren't able to make a decision, so therefore can't be blamed for the decision that you made. Those are all excellent. So what is the judge's decision after hearing both arguments? I agree, he would go with the defense. And how does that feel when you have that fear and anger emotion that you had before? Proud. Yeah, proud. I think that's courage. Yeah, those are great, great words to describe that. Okay, so let's look at we're going to try some Socratic questioning with these schemas. And the one that we really want to look at, kind of based on what we talked about with you always being such a good student, because that has perpetuated this need for perfectionism. So you said, that you know you have this perfectionism, right? So we're going to look at this perfectionism. What are the influential people that caused this perfectionism? So, right, the parents. It was the only way to get attention if you were an amazing student. The uncle who was your main support person, the closest adult that you had in your childhood and even in your life. He saw that in you and encouraged that. And you brought up too that like even the uncle wasn't happy with Jennifer making this decision to switch from an English major to the nursing profession, right? And so that was really hard for Jennifer to go against that need for validation, right? The little girl Jennifer. But you chose to do the nurse practitioning, which you ended up loving. Okay, so how have these beliefs been shaped by these experiences? You talked about how you were going to be the best student in treatment and how you were going to ace this. And Gilbert shared his story and you realized, that is me. I need this program just as much as anybody else. And you saw the similarities and realized that that's not actually how treatment works. I loved that. That was super helpful. Okay, so your interests, jobs, spiritual practices that are most important to you. You've made that choice. You're going to be the nurse practitioner again. And you've also talked about moving into your grad program where you've explored those spiritual beliefs with Carl Jung and the unconsciousness, which kind of came from wanting to leave the Catholic religion where you didn't find your spirituality. And in addition to that, it kind of plays into the growth you've had from your personal experiences in that really difficult marriage. So I think that's excellent work and something to continue doing with these schemas as we keep going forward.